The sourcing and handling of biological raw materials has always been a rather complex issue, even without the pandemic and its difficulties. So what are the biggest challenges for today?
Oh, there are a lot of issues, if you ask me. Number one, there is a constantly increasing raw material scarcity, and it is not necessarily related to COVID alone. We have been observing the raw material scarcity in where it comes down to biological raw materials because, for example, there is the animal blood or the animal serum that has been in abundance in the past is getting less and less with people eating less meat, or the blood being utilized for other applications as well, so it would not reach biotech applications at all, or the change in the way the agriculture has been organized, so farming happens today in a completely different way. So the raw material scarcity as such exists, of course, and then we have an increased consumption. Think about all these countries that have been traditionally considered poor in the past, and all of a sudden these countries come and say, well, now we need also our medical devices, our medicinal products, we have to take care of our population. So there is an increased demand for research and for manufacturing in the entire area of biotech. So then, in addition, we have, of course, the problems with the transportation, because, again, due to COVID, the goods won't reach their final destination that easily, and there are increased transport costs and taxes and etc., etc. Then, of course, there is a difficulty with the people who have been trapped in the present situation for more than 12 months now. People that have to stay at home and work from home, and smart working turned out to be something very challenging for a lot of people. Not everyone has created in the past in their own homes a good environment in order to work. Many people have very tiny homes. Many families used their homes just for coming together at night and sleeping, and now everyone being trapped inside with the kids that have to go through these periods of homeschooling, which is very challenging for the parents. Then everyone's at home, everyone trying to work from home with the kids screaming, with the dog barking, with no possibility to be in the usual environment. And people who do not even have access to their files in the office. So think about how many businesses still work on paper. And this smart working has been very, very, very challenging. And of course, it unchained this crisis also because products and services do not reach the final consumer as they used to be before. Then on top of this, we have people who have been leaving their employer, or people who have been laid off by their employer since the epidemic started. Initially, a lot of businesses were forced to reduce the working staff because they were unable to pay the salaries. Then those who stayed, they had to perform twice as much to cover up for those who had been laid off. And then among those who stayed, many people couldn't make it because of the challenging smart working that I mentioned before. So they left as well. So the remaining staff nowadays has a very, very heavy job to do, because we see, for example, in the transport companies, how many mistakes happen all of the time. And these mistakes do not happen intentionally. People are trying to do their best, but they can't, just because they have so much to do. And then, in addition, there are restrictions that come from outside. A lot of manufacturing businesses had to reduce the speed they manufacture, or they had to concentrate only on the basics of production because of safety regulations, of the new safety regulations. Think about the slaughter plants. And I will jump back to the first answer I gave about the raw materials that are generated for biotech in other industries. Now, traditionally, animal blood is harvested in the meat processing plants. However, the meat processing plants, they now cannot work in the usual speed because of COVID safety regulations. We should not forget that the virus spreads very, very easily in a cold and humid environment. So the slaughter plant inside the meat processing plant is just the perfect home for the virus. So people who are working in the meat industry, they have to work in a lower speed, they have to disinfect between the shifts, and the regulators have said for a very long time now, you only make meat. You're not allowed to use any of the byproducts, you're not allowed to collect these byproducts and sell them to anyone else because that's too risky. So that also affected the availability of the raw materials, because there was nobody there, or the people who were there were not allowed to collect them and sell them and use them as raw material for biotech. So what do? We just face the crisis as is, and we see that manufacturing has been slowed down, agriculture has slowed down, but this is the times we live in.